Possibly.
Okay.
Hello, Internet. If we're
Hello.
live and you can hear us, then we are sending a message to you, I think.
Salutations.
Greetings.
Okay, let's get started. Where to
All right.
begin?
All right,
Beginner
well-
questions then.
Well, we are Edge. We make wallet software that allows you to control your own cryptocurrency on your own phone. And I am a coder. I do software development, and you are our support.
Yep,
man.
RJ. My name's RJ, and I'm QA and support.
So if the app is broken, customers will come to you first.
Yeah, that's right.
But we try to avoid that on my side.
Yeah, let's prevent broken stuff from happening first.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, let's talk about things that might happen that might be confusing to someone who's using cryptocurrency for the first time, because there's a lot of stuff that can trip people up, and we have some beginner questions that have come in occasionally, and we'd like to talk about some of those.
Yeah, so some of the questions I get is, how do I change my address? Like, how do I get it to change?
So this is, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this.
It
Okay.
depends on the coin, too.
It depends on the
There's a
coin.
lot of answers for
So,
this.
so in the old days, with Bitcoin in particular, you could have a single address that you would use for a single purpose, and it'd just be one address for you.
Right.
The old blockchain.com wallet used to have one address, and that was it.
Same thing, I think even for like mycelium in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was on HD, not yet.
So when you wanted to receive money, you would show people this one address, and they would send money to it, and you would receive it.
Right.
But then we quickly realized that anybody can now take that one address that they know is yours,
Right.
go look it up on the blockchain, and see all the money you ever received.
Yeah, and not to mention all of your transactions, so there's no privacy.
Right. So if I give somebody the same address that they ask for like a tip or something, and that's also the one I receive my paycheck on, now all of a sudden people know how much I earn.
Yeah.
And so you're really giving up a lot of financial privacy. So, two solutions to this problem.
Yep.
One is use a privacy coin,
Right.
such as, for instance, Monero, which we support in our wallet. And in that case, you have a single address still, and you don't need to change your address.
Right.
Because if you go look it up on the blockchain, you get nothing.
Yeah.
They've used the structure of the blockchain, the cryptography, the math have all been adjusted to shield what's happening inside that address. There's no way to know really what's going on.
Right.
So that's one solution. You use privacy technologies to just eliminate the problem entirely.
Yes.
Another solution is we don't care about financial privacy. Ethereum doesn't care about financial privacy. They're designed for use with dApps, and so your identity kind of is tied to the app, and so in that case, that network, you would have one address, one wallet, and everybody can see what you're doing, but it's okay because it's not for payments, it's for interacting with digital services.
Right. They're more account-based.
Yeah, they're an account-based system. And so you'll see the same thing on EOS, right? They have actually a name associated to your address, so you're really kind of locked in.
Yeah. Stellar.
Stellar and Ripple both kind of come from a traditional financial networks background, like where you have identity. So they don't actually want people creating addresses. So
Right.
it actually costs money to create an address.
Yeah.
So in that case, you're kind of very much like, we're going to become clean and we're going to show the government everything we're doing, and that's kind of our approach. So I guess that's the second option, right? Don't hide what you're doing at all, or hide what you're doing using math. And the third one for Bitcoin is obscure what you're doing. So what you can do on Bitcoin is every time you do a transaction, just generate a fresh address.
Yeah. So to answer the original question, how do you change your Bitcoin address? Just do another transaction, your address will automatically change. But let's say you don't have someone doing a transaction to you, you can just create a new Bitcoin wallet that generates a new address as well.
Yeah, and the other thing, you can send money to yourself.
Or send money, it'll be a quick one. Just
Yeah.
pay for the, the mining fee, and that's it.
Yeah, so on Bitcoin, the way Edge has coded it to give people more privacy than what the network provides by default, which is just one address, is we have an HD wallet structure.
Yes.
So this applies to Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin lookalike currencies. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin,
Litecoin.
Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Dogecoin. There's so many I can't even list them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many.
So for those coins, every time you do a transaction, Edge itself will automatically create a fresh address and use that to show for the barcode.
Right. And likewise, when you send funds, the address, also the funds get to send to a change address. So it's your funds coming back, but into a new address on your wallet.
Right. So that's something we've done to protect customers, protect users, protect your privacy a little bit. It's kind of standard feature now for most Bitcoin-ish wallets, and
Yeah.
other chains, of course, they have their own thing going.
Right.
All right,
let's see.
what's the other questions we got to answer here?
Yeah. How do you cancel a transaction once it's been sent? Or what can you do to get it back?
Oh boy.
So we've answered this maybe a couple other times, but we always get this, so we always want to kind of lay this out there.
So on the Bitcoin network, and most of the other cryptos work this way. It doesn't have to work this way. There's completely radical structures that don't do it this way. But
Right.
for Bitcoin and Bitcoin-alike currencies, as soon as you send out a transaction, the presumption is that it's going to get included in a block.
Right.
And once it's included in a block, of course, it's part of the mining history and it's part of the proof of work. And so to undo that transaction, you would need literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars and a very high cost of equipment for owning a mining farm. Like the whole point of Bitcoin and related currencies is once a transaction is in the chain, it is not going anywhere.
Right. It's part of the design.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we have basically is a 10-minute window from the time you sent it to the time it confirms, where maybe you could do some funny business to get it canceled.
Right, right.
And unfortunately, the Bitcoin network is designed, for the most part, to, once a transaction is out there, not accept a replacement.
Right.
So if I send money out from a particular address and then I try to send that same money somewhere else, the network will say, well, I saw this other one first, therefore the replacement I'm not going to accept.
Yes.
So in that case, there really isn't much you can do. Once a transaction's sent, it's kind of going to get confirmed.
Yeah, unless you lose like zero fees or something like that,
So
it's likely going to get confirmed.
Yeah, unless the fees are too low. Now, there is a feature on Bitcoin BTC,
Right.
and not all the other chains have this. Like Bitcoin Cash definitely does not have this feature called replace by fee.
Yeah, RBF.
So what it says is, until this transaction is confirmed, allow me to replace it. All I have to do to replace it is send another transaction with higher fees.
Right.
And RBF arguably allows you to replace a transaction once it's been sent. Gives you that 10-minute average window to like do it.
Still a small window.
Yeah, it's still a small window. And the UX, like, is there like a button that says cancel? Like, we couldn't figure out how to make it look good from a user experience point of view, so we don't actually have this feature.
Right, the RBF.
Because the problem with RBF is if your transaction's marked that way, a lot of merchants will reject it because it's like, well, we haven't actually been paid because you could just assume.
Yeah, because it's still a risk for them.
Yeah, you can cancel this, so why would we accept it? You know?
So then you're losing more like merchants that you're able to pay to because they don't take RBF.
Yeah, their whole business model is like, we're going to accept unconfirmed transactions on the presumption that they will be confirmed and send our goods and services as quickly as possible.
Right.
Oh, not this one. This one can be changed on a whim, so we're not going to accept that.
Right.
And that kind of messes with their risk model, their pricing model, and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
a lot of people don't take it. So we don't support RBF, unfortunately. So once a transaction's out there, it's pretty much good.
Pretty much sent.
Unless we see a fee spike, which I
Yeah.
should probably mention. 2017 this happened.
Yeah, we saw $50 fees.
$50 fee. So if you send a transaction with a $10 fee and the next day the fees are up to $50, your transaction might sit around for a week or two.
Right, it might even get dropped if it continues to stay
Yeah.
that way.
So one thing you can do then is send money back to yourself. So take your wallet, take your own address, and then send the maximum amount of money back to that
You want
address.
to use all the inputs.
Yeah, and send a really generous fee. So what that's going to do, and that sounds a little complicated, but what it's doing is it says the change from the first transaction that's not confirming,
Yeah.
now I'm going to give the miners a very generous fee in exchange for confirming this other transaction that uses the first one.
Right.
And since the second transaction depends on the first one going through, therefore the miners will tend to confirm both. So there's a way to accelerate your own transactions, but you can't really necessarily cancel them or replace them.
You can just accelerate it, and that's called child pays for parent transaction.
Yeah.
Because you're paying for that first parent transaction by paying a higher fee for that second transaction.
Yeah. So that's about it. Yeah, there's not really much you can do. So if you sent money by accident, and I did this, once I bought a loaf of bread from a store in our San Diego area that was a bakery that took Bitcoin for payment.
Right.
And I forgot to type
Was it Pangea?
It was Pangea.
There we
Yeah,
go. Okay.
good place. It's
Cool.
too bad they're closed down now. But
Yeah.
anyway, I forgot to type the decimal point. So I spent $300 on a loaf of bread. And they were very good about it. They're like, you know what, we see the mistake, no problem, we'll get it refunded to you. The money
Yeah.
showed up, a couple days later after the owner had a chance to look at it, no problem, right? So most merchants, if they're honest, will have no problem sending the money back if you screw it up.
Right. So as long as it's not a scam or anything like that, if you have the transaction ID, you have the transaction in your wallet, you have proof that you sent the money to the merchant, you can get the funds back by asking them, and most likely they'll send it back to you.
Yeah.
So that's what to do if you send it to the wrong address or you wanted to cancel a transaction.
Mm-hmm. All right, what other questions we got?
Okay, so kind of related. So yes, this involves sending a transaction to the wrong address. So of course they want to cancel it, but now that they know they can't really cancel it, but they send it to the wrong address and they have no idea who it is, what are some steps that a person can take to try to figure out who they sent it to?
You better answer this
Okay.
one. All I have to say is, don't do that. Be very careful.
Yeah, be very careful. Double check the address that you're about to send to. But let's say you did
Well,
send.
I'm going to say one thing that can happen. There are addresses out there that you send money to that nobody controls the address.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's in a black hole. It'll never come back. Those funds are
No
gone.
one has control over it.
You might as well have taken a match and took your $100 bill and just went poof.
Lit it on fire.
Yeah, that's kind of what can happen with some of these bogus addresses.
Yeah. So I've had some users that actually did that, and what I usually suggested them to do is, go through your text messages, go through your purchase history, go through your emails, try to see that address that you sent to, see if it appears in any of your messages, and if you can kind of locate it, maybe you'll find that, oh, there's a text message between you and a family member, and that address belongs to that person. Or check your emails, maybe you made a purchase at, like Overstock or something like that, and you can find out it's through that merchant. So basically you have to retrace your steps, try to figure out what merchant or what identity owns that address, and then try getting in contact them to get a refund from that address. But if it was, like William said, a randomly generated address from some other wallet and you just copied and pasted, and then maybe even deleted that wallet, so yeah, then it's sitting in a black hole. No one can access it.
Yeah. The other thing is addresses from the wrong blockchain too.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin has addresses that start with 3. Those are SegWit addresses many times.
Yep.
And Bitcoin Cash can send to those, but if it does send Bitcoin Cash to a SegWit Bitcoin address,
It's difficult to get out.
yeah,
Yeah.
because Bitcoin Cash doesn't support SegWit, so the whole structure of the blockchain is different, and therefore the money's very much locked in a very difficult.
The mining pools would have to troubleshoot with that one.
Yeah, there's it's a very
Possible,
difficult
but very
procedure.
difficult.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things you got to be careful. Make sure you're sending to the right blockchain too, not just the right address, but also
The
that
right
address
coin
is
type.
coming from the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we have news.
Well, we have, yeah. So we've been working with FIO. So wanted to
FIO?
talk a little bit about that. So what is this new feature? It's inside Edge. Some users, if you've installed the latest update, you'll see on the side menu, like register FIO address, FIO. William, can you tell me a little bit about FIO? What is the standard?
So FIO is a new project,
Yeah.
relatively new project, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to come up with an identity system for wallets.
Right.
So we talked about addresses, what happens if you send to the wrong address, who do you know what the address belongs to, and all this sort of thing. And so they want to kind of clean up the mess by just creating a very simple domain name system for wallets. So I would own, for instance, the address maybe like William Swanson at or dot. I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be used a dot or a colon or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was colon, but we'll see how it develops.
William Swanson dot edge, right, would be my address, and then I can just give that to people. I can just tell them, type this in,
Right.
and then they can send all different cryptos to that one thing.
Yeah, and you would still be able to receive it from different wallets, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So the idea is that it kind of creates a common naming system for people to have identity on the blockchain, and FIO is itself a blockchain
Right.
that supports names.
Yeah.
So it's basically the idea of Namecoin. You remember Namecoin? That was
Yeah.
back like
It's one of the old school coins.
old school altcoins,
Yeah,
right?
along with like Purecoin and all
Yeah,
those.
yeah. They basically brought that concept back, refreshed it for the modern era, and that's what they're putting in. So we're partnering with them, and it should be interesting. We'll see where this goes.
Yeah, it looks like there's quite a list on there. I'm looking at it like an Engine Wallet, Bitcoin.com, Atomic, Shapeshift, KeepKey, Coinami, BRD. So there's a lot of wallets hopping on board to make that naming standard, right?
So if we can get a lot of consumer-facing wallets to have this, that could be a step forward for the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would help with solving the naming system, like tied to what wallet, what address.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of related to that.
Okay. And let's see. another question. So it's still related to FIO. So it looks like it's $20 to register a domain in your name, but it's bidding, right? You still have to bid for it and then win it over like 90 days, I guess. Just looking
So
at the
my
site.
understanding with FIO is a domain is like a top level thing.
Yeah.
So to get a name within a domain is actually cheaper. So
Okay.
so I think if I want William.edge,
Yeah.
Edge already owns the .edge
They own the
domain.
Edge domain.
Right,
Gotcha,
so I can
gotcha.
have William.edge, and that's cheap, relatively
Yeah,
speaking.
it's just like adding a user for that domain.
But if you want a top level name, like so that other people can have, suppose you're like a big corporation,
like let's say Amazon.
Amazon, right? So if you want, books.amazon or marketing.amazon
Yeah,
or something
yeah.
like that is your name, then you have to own Amazon as the top level.
You have to own the main domain first.
Yeah, so Amazon's
Gotcha.
probably going to go out and bid the $20, $30 to get that top level name.
Got it.
But you don't need one of those. As a user, you can just have, if you're comfortable at something else, then you
Yeah.
can just be somebody at Edge.
Right. Okay, good stuff. Let's talk about a little bit of previous release. So it looks like we had like Tezos and BNB out recently.
Binance Chain?
Yeah, more about those coins. Like what makes them different from the other coins? I know BNB is, what is it, top 10, like number 4 or something
Yeah,
like that?
BNB is huge. It's
Yeah,
really
so
kind of
Binance is
amazing.
a big coin. Yeah.
Well, Binance, right now, their coin is a coin.
Right.
You can send it, you can receive it, and it works.
Yeah, it used to be an ERC20 token.
Well, that's actually something interesting. So it's its own chain now.
Yeah.
And it used to be an ERC20. So the pre-sale, you participate in the pre-sale, they give you this token, and then you can upgrade the token to a main chain, kind of like what EOS did last year.
Yeah, basically redeemable for
Yeah.
the real mainnet tokens.
Well,
coins.
that creates an issue because if you had BNB the token in your Edge wallet,
Yeah.
and now that we support BNB the coin,
The real one.
the
right?
actual one that they were going to launch,
Yeah.
how can you have two coins with the same name inside the wallet?
Yeah, especially if you want to do like exchanges and buy and sell, it just makes
Right.
it
So what we've
confusing.
done is we've just decided that we no longer support the ERC20 version.
Right.
And in fact, you won't see it, and we will remove it if you have it.
Right.
So only BNB, the coin, is now available and supported and working. So if you have the ERC20, the Ethereum version of Binance,
Yeah.
here's what you do. You go ahead and add the token back,
Yep.
but you give it a different token code. You
Like
give it
BNB2.
like BNB2, right?
Right.
That way your balance will show up, and you won't have an exchange rate because no one knows what BNB2 is.
Yeah.
But at least you can see your money, transfer it to BNB's service to convert it to the real mainnet, and then you're good to go.
Yeah. Sounds
So
good.
that's our little procedure. If you need more help, you can contact QA. We've got articles being written. And all
Yeah,
that
we
stuff.
already have an article out. We had a couple questions on it already, and we were able to help them out. So
Yeah,
we're
so
happy to help
that's the kind of gist of it. So your money's not lost. We just can't show it in our wallet because we would then have two coins with the same code, and that would break everything. So.
Right. Okay. So next one.
Tezos, I think Tezos. I don't know much about Tezos.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart contract proof of stake coin.
Right.
So typically what you see in the blockchain space is kind of, in my mind, a mental hierarchy of different chains.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's coins that merely are tokens,
Mhm.
right? You go on Ethereum, you spin up an ERC20 contract. I'd say that's like the least effort and the least value in
Right.
terms of generating a new coin.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. It doesn't really have a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
The next sort of step up is when you copy Bitcoin. You say, I'm going to take Bitcoin, I'm just copy, change a few numbers,
Yeah.
call
like,
it my own
like
thing.
Litecoin, Dogecoin, like changing a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
of
it was
Bitcoin's
very low
code.
effort. Now, Dogecoin and Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash happened due to very specific historical circumstances, being old or being
Right.
funny, that kind of gave them success. But generally speaking, that's not a valuable activity.
Right.
The next level up, I would say, is when you actually build your own coin. When you actually go out and you do some research and you build your own chain from the ground up with
Major
new,
profound changes.
yeah, major changes, right?
Right.
And I would say that that's actually a valid thing that pushes the industry forward because we're trying new ideas for different structures, different consensus algorithms, different networking structures, working on different ideas for scaling, whatever it is you've got, whatever your angle is. I think that's a valuable activity. And so Tezos, to my understanding, is actually a from ground up, like fully built chain. So
Right.
very interested to see going forward how they do, what's new and what's different, if they solve problems other chains don't have. I think it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think they deserve because they did the work to be a successful chain.
We need more unique coins like that.
Yeah, more actual usable and unique.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's go over recent events, news.
News. Okay.
Yeah. So this one I just saw briefly on Reddit. Looks like Andres Antonopoulos is canceling a trip to Australia, and that's because of the strict encryption laws. So this was actually out maybe like last year, where they were getting a lot of heat that traveling in Australia you have to give up your encryption, your password. Let's just say it's a lot stricter than the United States. I know in the United States, if it's password, you don't have to give it up, but if it's fingerprint, technically you still have to sign in for them.
So,
And Australia is being more strict that you actually have to give that up, if I'm understanding correctly.
so yeah, if you have a phone full of data and you've encrypted your phone with a fingerprint or a PIN or something,
Yeah.
then presumably, according to was it the First Amendment? No, I don't remember which one.
Yeah,
freedom
I
of
don't remember
speech.
the right
freedom-
one, but
Man, you see, I just numbered things are not good. You need named things.
yeah.
But according to the right to not incriminate yourself, which we have, I think maybe the Fifth Amendment actually.
Yeah, I think it would be the
The
fifth.
Fifth Amendment, yeah. In the United States, we have this thing that basically is part of our Constitution that says the government cannot compel you to say something that would compromise you in a court of law.
Yeah.
So you have absolute right to privacy and to knowing things and not revealing those things to. And so, according to that, they can't ask you to give up your PIN or give up your fingerprint because then you would be saying something they could use against you.
Yeah, you would be incriminating yourself.
So that's been tested and it seems to hold tight. But your fingerprint's not something you know; it's something you are.
Yeah.
And so they can absolutely ask you to put your fingerprint on your phone. That's something you're doing, not something you're saying.
Right. And I assume it would be the same thing for, say, face recognition for like the iPhone.
Yeah,
X.
yeah.
That would be the
So
same thing, right?
biometrics have that problem.
Biometrics. Okay.
But if a PIN or a password does not have that problem.
Gotcha.
Now, Australia is a British Commonwealth country. They don't have the United States Bill of Rights that we have here, that we
Right.
enjoy. So that means that their legal system's a little different.
Right.
I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I know that their legal system comes from British law, not American law.
Yeah, that's where
That's what I meant by that. I'm not saying they're under the Queen right now or anything like that. But what that means is they can make different laws, and what they've said is, no, if you have encrypted data on your phone, you have to give it to us.
up.
Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Which basically means if you're in Australia and you have stuff on your phone, it's fair game for the government to just come and take your stuff,
Right.
which could be anything.
Yeah, it could be work-related stuff, could be personal stuff, anything, as long as it's already on there.
So I feel sorry for the guys in Australia. That's not a good legal system to be in. Not having the right to basic privacy is kind of scary, but
Yeah.
because of that, Andrea says, I would rather keep my freedom than go to a country that has that. So
Yeah.
hopefully Australia gets
Hopefully they straighten things out.
Yeah, but until then, sorry guys, that must suck.
Right. And next one. So this was kind of interesting. So it just looks like this past week, the ECB, the European Central Bank, they stated that they were going to do negative interest rates. And I think it's for the first time in history, right? And then that they would be printing 20 billion euros worth per month to like buy back bonds starting in November. So that's kind of an increase in supply in the money sector. So that could increase the prices of commodities, right?
Whew, okay, man.
So what are your thoughts
Monetary theory. I mean, come on. Like, prior to becoming in Bitcoin, never thought I would have to know so much about like interest rates and bonds
Yeah,
and
money
monetary
supply.
theory and economics and stuff. Man, it's
Yeah.
just nuts. Let me translate this into English.
that? Okay.
You go to your local bank and you put $100 on deposit.
Uh-huh.
Your bank can do one of two things. They can either pay you every month for holding your money,
Right.
which presumably if they're putting your money to work for
you,
they
yep.
should be able to pay you back a little bit, maybe a couple pennies a month.
Yeah.
Or your bank can charge you for the privilege of storing your money there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, every $100 you deposit at the bank, we're going to charge you a penny a month.
So that's a negative interest rate.
So if they
for-
start
it's an
charging
analogy.
you for holding your money, that's a negative interest rate. So you're like, why would I go to the bank and deposit my life savings if they're just going to charge me for holding it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what else are you going to do? Take
Right.
it all out, put it into cash, and stick it under your mattress?
Well, their incentive is they want people to be spending, like stimulate the economy, put your money into stocks, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's their argument.
Yeah,
on their
that's, so
side.
if you
It's kinda
want,
makes sense
if you don't
too.
want us to just pay to have your money sitting around, go put it to use and buy stocks, right?
Yeah.
Pump up the economy.
Yeah.
Let's keep the party going. So I can see why central banks like negative interest rates
Right.
because it kind of stimulates the economy in that way.
Yeah, it forces the Joe, gotta invest or spend my money or else I'm just gonna lose it.
Right. But there's an out that they're not necessarily considering, because they said, well, why would I take my life savings and put it in the bank if they're just going to charge me money to keep it?
Yeah,
What if I took my money out and bought crypto with it?
right.
Then no one's going to charge me for storing it.
Yeah.
I could even buy stable coins if I want to peg to the euro or something.
See, it's setting the stage.
You're setting the stage,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's
They're setting the stage for popping Bitcoin.
so that's fascinating. I think we're going to see how this plays out long term.
And that's just one part of it. The
That's one
second
part.
part, we still got to talk about the printing.
The printing of fresh money.
Yeah.
So throughout history, anytime you have so what typically happens, you start with a commodity money like gold, right?
Right.
Physical gold bars are what we use for gold coins, right? People don't really realize how valuable, incredibly valuable gold is. A little 1 gram gold coin is half the size of a dime. It's a really little small thing.
Yeah,
And that's worth like $100.
yeah,
I mean, gold is expensive.
right.
So you have this little teeny tiny coin that's like a nice meal, like a nice meal. So you gotta like cut that thing in half. It's like nothing. You can hardly hold it.
Yeah,
So people didn't really use gold for their everyday money. Like you see in like games, people have, like bags of gold. Like you're like loaded if you have a bag of gold.
yeah,
So what typically would happen is people would use silver for the small little everyday purchases, and then gold for their big purchases.
yeah, gotcha.
The United States currency used to be worth about 100 times what it is now.
Mhm.
So a dime, 10 cents, is now $10. So that much silver that's in a dime, that's about $10 worth of silver.
Yeah,
So you can use that to buy a lunch or dinner. So
right,
that kind of gives you an idea of like how valuable silver was in its physical form.
right.
Still, you don't want to carry that around, so you'd rather use paper because you can get to smaller denominations like $1. It's
Yeah,
even
even
smaller.
smaller.
Yeah. And so at that point, we stopped using silver, started using paper, and then people stopped caring about the silver backing.
Yeah,
And then we just went 100% paper. And then I think shortly after World War II, or what was it? The
there was,
Brex-
I think it was in the
something Woods, something Brexton Woods or something
Yeah,
like that.
I think it was in the 70s when we got off the gold standard. Is that what
That's
you're trying
that's
to get
right.
at?
Yeah,
like
there was
1973.
something right after World War II where we kind of like severed the tie with gold a little bit, and then in
Yeah.
the 70s we completely cut it off.
Yeah,
There's
where it
no-
became like illegal. They had to like collect your gold.
well,
and
that
all
was the 30s. I
Oh,
think.
that was.
There's
okay.
been multiple levels of like distancing ourselves
Got
from
it.
gold, at least in the
Okay.
United States dollar, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're at a system where it's completely paper.
Yeah.
And Europe is on the same system where it's completely paper. There's no backing to any physical anything.
Right.
And once you get to that point, then something beautiful can happen if you're a government.
Yeah.
You just print more paper.
Yeah.
You just make money out of thin air all day long and send it out there.
Yeah. And it doesn't trickle down to the bottom. It's like the banks, the
Right,
rich
right.
class have it.
Yeah, so you can now create money out of thin air, give it to your buddies, give it to the stockbrokers or whoever you want to enrich at the expense of everybody else. And what happens when you have double the amount of dollar bills? Well, every bill is now worth half because there's not twice as much stuff to buy.
Right. And
So each bill can buy half as much stuff.
yeah, the goods increase because it's less valuable.
So us little guys down at the bottom who just work to make a living and keep money in the bank,
we just got screwed.
our money is evaporating in value,
Yeah.
whereas now we're using this money to buy bonds, buy stocks, pump up the economy. It's good for the guys at the top and not for us. And so then we wonder why we have rising income inequality and all these other problems.
Yeah.
It's definitely caused by money printing.
Right.
And so if you can get to a system where you can't print money, such as cryptos, where there's no way to just make money out of thin air, it's like locked in the protocol,
Yeah.
that's going to solve it. Or going back to commodities like gold would also solve it. But in the meantime, we have guys like the ECB just printing money to help their stockbroker buddies and pump up the economy, which kind of is code word for helping the upper class. And
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
everybody who saved money, worked hard with their jobs, and doesn't have stocks, doesn't have bonds, is now just having their money evaporate.
Yeah.
With negative interest on
I know,
top
on
of
top
it.
of that. Right. Yeah, they just really want to screw you guys over.
Oh man. So yeah, that's why we got involved in cryptos, because we kind of saw this stuff coming and we're like, nah,
Right.
I don't want to participate in this system.
It's like the analogy
So-
here would be like if that happened to Bitcoin. Let's just say Bitcoin could do that, where only like they raised the cap from 21 million to 42 million,
Mhm.
and then except that not every holder would have double the amount. So theoretically, it would be like, okay, so the cap's raised to 42 million. So then if you have 21 Bitcoins and now you have 42 Bitcoins, you doubled it, right? Doubled
Mhm.
the cap, you have double the amount. But in this case, just to match that analogy with the ECB, is where they raised the cap, but then the people that get to enjoy that extra Bitcoins is like the banksters.
Yeah.
Like, why do they get the free Bitcoins when I'm the one holding the Bitcoins and we increase the limit? So just,
Yeah, it's just not a good situation. So yeah, that's where we are. So that's kind of the moral reason why we got into Bitcoin. At least I got into Bitcoin.
yeah,
You know.
it's the same for me.
Yeah, I just
for most of us.
Yeah, you just kind of see the world going in this strange direction. You're like, I get it. I get exactly why they're doing it, what they think is happening, and it makes perfect sense. But it's not for me.
Right.
It's not helping me. It's not making my life
It's
better.
an invisible tax.
Yeah, the invisible tax of inflation and money printing.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Okay.
what can you do?
Yeah, so I think we're good on time.
Get crypto, hold it, keep it in a secure wallet, presumably one that you control, not a centralized one controlled by some third party. You don't know who they are. So,
Yeah.
software like Edge is a solution.
Right. So yeah, not your keys, not your money.
Yeah, your keys, your coins.
Right.
Stay safe, everybody.
We'll see you next week. Take care.